speaker, she just shows the power of LinkedIn because I messaged her out the blue and she responded. She really resonated with the work we do. Her name is Ambily Banerjee, and she is a director at GSK. Ambily worked as a postdoctoral scientist for 9 years at Imperial College and UCL, focusing on neuroscience. She moved to GSK and has worked within regulatory affairs, audit and assurance, and on inclusion and diversity. She's a person that regularly pays it. And I'm so delighted to have her here, especially because we got 3 emails within the technology sector. So Ambily, guys, tap your screen. Let us know that you're excited. Welcome, Ambily. Woo!
Thank you, James. Wow, what an introduction. Really appreciate it. So I'll start with my story. I was born in Bombay, in India, in Kerala, actually, not even Bombay, but I grew up in Mumbai. And at the age of 13, my parents decided to move to the UK. So I had never even changed schools. So at 13, I had a bit of a culture shock when I started going to school in the UK. And slowly, you know, I kind of got used to it. And at school, I did quite well at GCSE, but my A levels were appalling. I suddenly discovered that I fitted into school finally and got involved in socializing, did really badly in my A levels, and got in through clearing into university to do biochemistry. So I started a biochemistry degree. I did really well by the end. I got a first class degree, decided I really wanted to be a scientist, a lab scientist, and did a PhD at Brunel as well. At the end of my PhD, I had a chip on my shoulder that I'd got in through clearing and I'd gone to a pretty mediocre university and I wanted to go to one of the top tier universities, right? So I applied to Imperial, became a postdoc for a couple of years. Then thought, what do I want to do next? I really fancy industry. So I started applying to industry and realized that I was getting a lot of feedback after interview that you're too much of an academic. So I was too much of an academic at age 26. And I thought, how has that happened? You know, I've only worked for a couple of years in a university, but I couldn't get a job. So then I moved to UCL and I was racking my brain thinking, how do I move into industry? That's where I really want to work. You know, they have better pay, the job seems interesting and there's a career path. And I knew I didn't really want to be a lecturer. So I started talking to people about how do you break into industry. And I came across some talk where somebody said networking is the key thing. You know, you've got to build connections so you understand what they're looking for. So I was just sitting in a pub. I thought, I'm going to put this advice. Sometimes we listen to advice and it goes out one ear and the other, right? And you don't put it into practice. So I thought, I'm going to listen to this networking advice. And I started talking to people, a friend of a friend, and started asking her meaningful questions, right? What are you doing? And she said, oh, I do this on the side. I do some consultancy work where I link academics to industry. So I work with this technology network. And I said, wow, that's really interesting. Tell me more. I want to know more. I really want to work in industry, blah, blah, right? And then forgot about that conversation. 6 months later, she walked over into my lab and said, I'm leaving. Do you want the job? It's yours if you want it. So purely based on a pub conversation where she saw the enthusiasm and I told her what I want. So sometimes we think we're lucky in life, but actually we make our own luck, right? And we have to kind of put out there to the universe what we really want. And sometimes the universe delivers. So, and you never know when that chance meeting could turn into that. So my one piece of advice is absolutely make the most of whatever chance encounter you have with whoever and have meaningful conversations. Don't talk about the weather or talk about their holiday. Ask them what they do for a living, what they like about their job. Tell them what you want. And that's all networking is just sharing your thoughts, things that really matter to you. The second thing that happened is as a result of getting this role, and actually at the time that it was offered to me, I'd been married a couple of years. I was just starting to think about starting a family. And I remember going home after this conversation and saying to my husband, great opportunity, but don't really know if I want to do it now because, you know, we're starting, I'm going to get pregnant and then how am I going to do this? Now I'm going to talk to the women who are listening to me. We all have a tendency to park stuff in life because we might want to start a family. Women tend to do this a lot. We kind of think, oh, we need to prioritize family, and therefore I'm going to park and pull myself out of opportunities. And that's a mistake. Don't park your life because you're going to have a baby at some point, right? And I needed a push. I made that mistake myself, and I needed a push with my husband saying, what are you talking about? When else are you going to get this kind of golden opportunity handed to you? So I went down this route. I did get pregnant shortly after and ended up having to find different ways of staying in touch while I was out. And actually, some of the things I only had to work as a consultant for half a day a month. So I carried on half a day a month while I was on maternity leave. And my head of department noticed that I was doing this amazing work and I was on mat leave. Um, and I wouldn't advocate working while you're on mat leave, but actually it was very little effort that I was putting in. But that led to being noticed by the head of department, who then, when I came back from mat leave, said, Ambily, I want you to set up a course for PhD students to enter industry. Now, I had never worked, I couldn't even get a job in industry, right? And I thought, how on earth is he asking me to do this? But obviously, I didn't say that. I went through the, oh my God, can I do this? And self-doubt and imposter syndrome, etc. Again, I had people saying, trust yourself. He trusts you. Go and figure out how to make it happen, right? So I went to the careers service, who run courses all the time. I talked to my industry partners and I brought them together and we set up a course with industry input. And it started running quite successfully. And as I was running this course, I figured out what I was doing wrong. I figured out that all it was about was marketing myself in the right way for industry. Previously, I was going in with my academic skills and saying, I'm brilliant at this. Industry didn't care. As soon as I figured out the secret, I could market myself, and I came into GSK 13 years ago. So, once I knew the secret, it only took me a couple of months to break in. And part of that was having a mentor from industry who helped me navigate that, right? So I came into GSK. Part of the reason for choosing GSK is because I saw women at high positions and I thought, well, there's no glass barrier here. Brilliant. I'm going to, achieve great things. A year in, my career was going nowhere. I'd taken a pay cut. I'd started pretty much at the bottom and it wasn't going anywhere. So after a year, I got fed up. I was looking for a job elsewhere. Someone had actually pushed me from a competitor, pretty much ready to resign. And then my manager figured out that I was unhappy and asked me, what's going on? Are you going to resign sometime soon? And I said, I'm interviewing. And then before I knew it, I was sat in front of the VP explaining what I wanted to do with my life. And I said, I plan to go pretty high up. I came in because, I want to achieve things in my life and I'm very ambitious and give me a challenge. I'm not being challenged here. And she said to me, turn down that other job, stay here. I will take responsibility for your career. Right? Now, what she was saying is she'll be my sponsor. Now, I never knew what a sponsor was. And a sponsor is a very influential person in your career. If you want to go high, you need to have somebody senior who basically believes in you, who've seen you work and thinks, yep, this person has potential. And they can then pull you up through the organization. So this person, even though they moved on 6 months later, they were a huge influence in my career. And my career went pretty steeply up. Within 6 years, I went from entry grade to a director. And then I stalled for the last 7 years. I've kind of not moved any higher. And initially, I thought it's because I haven't diversified. I haven't shown them that I can do different things, right? I've stayed pretty linear in my department. So I started looking for other opportunities, and I found some secondments and external secondments, internal secondments, managed Brexit for GSK across all our business units, and took on all these extra responsibilities. Still couldn't get a job. Then I started thinking, what else is going on here? Is it something else? When I look up, there's no diversity. When I read about it, I realize there are reports out there that say in the UK, most companies don't have diversity at the top. It's the point Anastasia was making. It's not just gender. It's all kinds of diversity doesn't exist, particularly ethnic minorities. So then I started working with Embrace, which is a race and ethnicity employee resource group at GSK. I've been leading it for the last 14 months. And what we're doing is basically holding leaders to account to address that. So it requires every one of us to actually actively talk about it, actively put pressure in our organizations to redress that balance, so we have equity at work. That's what I'm passionate about. So thank you.